Thursday, November 13th. I'm Jim Check. With me, Ian Burns, our managing editor out there in the nation's capital. Another cloudy day here in the Okanagan. We got lots, though. How's the weather there, though, first of all?
Just crap. It's terrible. Very cloudy and very cold.
We got lots on the really big show today. Where's the outcry as whistleblower is about to get axed? Carney is set to announce more projects today. Anand, not a serious politician. Liberals in climate chaos. World goes from on fire to an ice age. Does Canada take its defense seriously? More waste and a lot of it. The Liberals refuse to be held accountable. Surprise. Team Canada, more woes. Schooled once again by the Americans, a lesson on how to hold the press conference. All that and a lot more on the really big show. Actually, we got a lot of really good stuff today. I mean, we're talking tons of really good stuff on the really big show. And we thank you for tuning in. We're live every morning at 9 a.m. when we try to be around there. We're a couple minutes late. We have a different person running the board this morning. And we're going to do a couple of really cool things today, too. We're going to live stream Pierre Poilievre's speech here at the Kelowna Chamber of Commerce. Well, no, it was the Kelowna Chamber of Commerce. Now they're just holding the event. It got canceled from some strange reason, which we're trying to look into as well. But we're going to live stream that speech, and Iain and I are going to give a breakdown of it after. And then I've also got MP Dan Mazir in here later today to talk about addictions. And then we also have Jeff Moyse in later today, the Aboriginal lawyer, and we're going to talk about all of these land claims here in Canada, well, British Columbia. We're going to kick it off, though. Remember when Trump's team fired the stats person? Even CBC and CTV lost their mind, and how dare the threat to democracy to be firing the statistician for the Canadian CPI numbers? Do you remember that? Big uproar. Canadian media losing its mind about a statistician that was fired in the United States for getting some numbers wrong. And he got the numbers wrong. He missed it by, I can't remember, 800,000 or something like that. And he was fired. And they said, what a threat to democracy. Well, here we are. We're set to axe the PBO that called out Carney's spending as shocking, unsustainable, stupefying, and that we're staring into the abyss. But it looks like the federal government wants to hire a new PBO, someone who shows tact and discretion. I mean, if the media doesn't go after this, I have no idea what's wrong with this country.
Well, you're going to have to come up with a diagnosis, because they're not going to go after this, are they? They've given a lot of airtime to his opponents, who've miraculously manifested in the press to come out and talk about how unprofessional he is and how he got everything wrong. The IMF, previous PBOs, I would imagine it's going to be more of the same. But I do think the comparison is a good one, actually, to look at the United States, because it isn't just like direct comparisons. It's also people like James Comey, the head of the FBI at the time. Right. I mean, or just anyone, just you know, you could look at a history of Trump's first term, just open it in a random page, and there would be something like that, where somebody within the system had said something critical of Trump and had then been targeted and possibly removed. And yeah, the CBC and the rest of the world's media was on fire about that. They couldn't believe it. It was the end of democracy. It was the end of the world. However, when Mark Carney does it, and that's true of anything that Mark Carney does, apparently, it's all right. It's fine, because it's Mark Carney doing it.
Let's go take a look at the CBC's website, because I'm sure this story must be out there. I mean, this is, but no, the headline there is eating more ultra-processed foods tied to increased risk of cancer. Carney and BC to unveil projects. I don't see it anywhere.
No.
They do have some Trump stories, though, of course. Trump is obviously the Epstein files. That's in there.
Not important enough, I guess.
Yeah, no, nothing on the CBC. Imagine that. This should be the lead story on every outlet in Canada. This should actually be the lead story on every outlet in Canada. Here's somebody And again, go back and look at when Trump fired the statistician that got the numbers wrong, by the way, got the numbers wrong. They were losing their minds and saying that what an undemocratic threat to democracy Donald Trump is for firing a statistician. Here's a CPA, and if the CPA don't make noise on this, I'm a CPA as well. If they don't make noise on this, then they should be called out as well, because this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. Somebody that calls into question, it's not just him either. The Ontario business community, the chambers of commerce, a whole bunch of people have been calling this budget just terrible. Well, we had several other CPAs that experts said it was utterly ridiculous. But here we go. The government is deciding that he's just not fit for the job. This should be the hugest
Well, that's the implication anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's quite a reasonable. It's a reasonable thing to deduce that he's not going to be kept on. I mean, he might not even apply for the job because he might not think that he's got a shot at it. But it's obvious, very obvious, at least to me as a sort of nerdy observer of politics, that he is, he's ruffled the feathers of the Liberal Party, and they don't like him. They don't think he's tactful or discreet, as this ad puts out there that they want for a PBO. But it's sad. And I just want to say, you were scrolling down the CBC there, and I was with you. I was at their website there, and I was just thinking they do a much better job of holding Donald Trump to account than they do Mark Carney. Why is that? Why are they performing the role of the media for a foreigner, for a foreign leader, but not their own leader in their own country and their own turf? The reason they exist. That's what the C stands for, the first C. They're supposed to be holding power to account in this country, but they're much better at it and much more interested in doing it for the President of the United States. That is, just think about that for a second. I know that's quite obvious what I've just said, but just think about the implications of that and just how sick the CBC in particular actually is.
If you didn't believe that they were compromised before, this alone proves how compromised they are. This should be the lead story everywhere. This should be the lead story. And the CPA society should lose its mind. And so should everybody else come to his defense. This is unbelievable. And then anytime they talk about when Donald Trump fires somebody, they should just put this story back up there and say, shut up, just shut up. In your words, right? Isn't that how you say it? Just shut up. Just
I guess
shut
so,
up.
yeah.
Anyway, Mark Carney is set to unveil his new list of recommended nation. We kind of got it front run by the CBC, the what's that, town crier, liberal mouthpiece, whatever you want to call it, $1.55 billion for the PR department. Because obviously, if they're not going after the Jason Jacques story, then, and they're just, you can go read their website. It's just like the PBO got to put that press release on their website as well. Mark Carney is set to unveil his next new projects, right?
I mean, almost certainly, as well, you mentioned the PMO, Prime Minister's Office. Almost certainly, this source, this tip-off that the CBC is talking about, somebody mentioned Watergate there in the YouTube comments, as if it's like Watergate times, the way that they describe the sources, as if they were like in downtown Ottawa and it was like they exchanged an envelope with the list. No, what almost certainly happened, as a journalist here, I'm pulling back the curtain to tell you, almost certainly what happened is the Prime Minister's Office just sent an email to the CBC and said, embargoed, not for attribution. That's literally what it'll have said. It's nothing more glamorous than that. Embargoed, not for attribution. Here is a list of the Prime Minister's. Here is a list of the projects that the Prime Minister will announce tomorrow in Terrace, British Columbia. See you later. That's what will have happened. I mean, I don't know if I'm telling people something they don't already know here, but that's how it works. And then you have to ask yourself, why did the government want to do this? What's advantage are they seeking? And then why did the CBC play along? Why is the CBC saying, okay, yes, me lord, I'll just say sources told us? Shouldn't you sort of be casting a light on this and saying, again, maybe holding power to account and saying the Liberal Party leadership wanted us to know this and wanted us to talk about it and put it on our front page. And here's why we're not going to do it or something. And here's why this isn't necessarily a great thing. But instead, they're just kind of, straight ahead, just do exactly what they're told.
Well, we'll see what those projects are, but we're expecting them to be, well, the pipeline is obviously the one, because that's why they're doing it in Terrace. How do you pronounce it? Sealism LNG, and there's already protests on that as well. And there's a hydro project, and none of it expected. And no pipeline expected, though. Imagine
Unless
that.
he's going to pull the rabbit out of the hat, and that was the whole point of giving CBC like an incomplete list. So you can just kind of say right at the end, just like, and for my last trick. But I mean, I wouldn't hold your breath if that's the kind of thing you're interested in.
The Anita Anand was holding, because Canada is the head of the G7 this year. We hold that title. And they did hold a G7 meeting there with the foreign affairs people in Niagara. And her counterpart, as she calls him, Marco Rubio. I mean, it must be tough for him to sit in that room. But here's a question a reporter asked, which is the obvious question. And listen to her, like, just like a deer in the headlights, basically like, how dare you ask me that question? That's not on our list. Don't you realize we pay your salaries? Let's listen to this.
One-on-one, face-to-face opportunity with an American counterpart, and you didn't take that chance to try to have a conversation about resuming trade talks when so much of the Canadian economy is relying on it.
I can confirm that I'm representing Canada's interests as the foreign minister, and I maintained Canadian interests and the Canadian position on a number of very serious issues that represent the interests of Canadians. For example, we have a significant Haitian diaspora here in Canada. We spent time discussing the ongoing crisis in Haiti. We have many, many Canadians who are concerned about the Middle East. And I reiterated Canada's advocacy and presence in terms of greater humanitarian aid and in terms of our contribution to the peace plan and the path to peace in the Middle East. We also have a large Ukrainian diaspora, many people in our country who care about Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. And we spent time talking about the illegal war in Ukraine. So as foreign minister...
You know how many more people are worried about putting food on the table, Anita Anand? I'm going to say those.
That was remarkable.
Oh.
That was astonishing. I don't know. I mean, whoever this random person is on Twitter doesn't seem to have picked up on it. I don't know if anybody else has picked up on just how revelatory that actually was. Did you hear what she said? I mean, for starters, she doesn't even know how to pronounce the word diaspora. That in itself is a revelation. She can't even pronounce a high school level word. Mark Carney can't pronounce the word heinous. I mean, make of that what you will. I don't know. Maybe you're not as much of a snob as I am, but I expect my leaders to be able to pronounce like words that 15-year-olds know. But anyway, the revelation that I saw here was, she said, I've been here as Canada's foreign minister, and I've been representing Canada and Canada's interests. And then she then went on to say, oh yeah, Haiti, because there are Haitians that live in Canada. The Middle East, because there are people in Canada that care about the Middle East and people from there. And Ukraine, because there are Ukrainians that live in Canada. Is that it then? Is that Canada? That's therefore in Canada's interest because people from a country live here, like Sudanese people live here in Canada. Does that mean, are we therefore involved in the Sudanese civil war? You know, there are a hell of a lot of British people, British-born people, such as myself in this country. Are we going to go and get involved in British free speech infractions or problems with freedom of speech? Is that is that now a Canadian interest? What is she talking about? As if that qualifies as a Canadian interest. Because we have Haitians here, Haiti is an interest of Canada. It's in the Canadian interest because Haitian people live here. That is just such a bizarre perspective of the world. I really think people should pay attention to that. That is extremely strange because people live here. We're involved in what happened, or people from one country live here. We're interested in that country. That country then becomes a Canadian interest. Why? What are you talking about? This is Canada.
I think Mark Carney should take all these Liberals in a room and ask them, quiz them. What is the number one concern for Canadians right now? What is the number one concern for Canadians right now? What is it? Not just the elites. What is the major concern for most Canadians? I mean, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy. And who's our biggest trading partner? It's the Americans, stupid.
Haiti, is it?
Is it Haiti?
Ukraine?
Yeah. So here you have Marco Rubio, who he must feel like he's looking across the room at just like somebody that's not there, and especially when she answers that. Later on in the show, you're going to get an education, Anita Anand, on how to handle a press conference and how to talk straight to people. And it's going to be Marco Rubio that's going to school you. So pay attention. It's going to come at the end here. Marco Rubio is probably one of the better politicians in the world right now. It has helped solve many wars. And I think Anita Anand and them actually just want to prolong wars. So we'll just keep going here, though, Anita. And you worry about, I have no idea what she's doing. But CBC put out this current government stands by Canada's climate targets. That's from the environment minister. We played that clip yesterday for you. And just a little reminder on this, though. Here's our friend Elizabeth May telling you, I think we played this yesterday or the day before, but here, just as a little reminder here, let's listen to Elizabeth May.
But I have to say that as a Canadian and a climate activist, I'm heartbroken that Canada is basically missing in action at a critical global meeting right now. So here we are 10 years after COP21 that took place in Paris in 2015, and we're absent now. This is the 10-year anniversary. This is the truth-telling moment, and our Prime Minister, who was going to be there today, has cancelled going. Mark Carney, as Special Envoy, attended COP26 in Glasgow and delivered to the world this great achievement, the Financial Alliance for Net Zero, the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, a commitment of $150 trillion from the masters of the universe, the big money, the people Mark Carney can talk to. They all signed up, and it's all washed away now. None of those trillions of dollars from the big banks and big investors that was pledged at COP26 exists anymore. Canada can have a strong economy, but not on a dead planet. This planet is on fire, and we are walking away from the danger.
That's good. Well, apparently it's on fire, but if we look at this now, these stories that have just come out, here's one from the New York Post. Gulf Stream near collapse, scientists warn inviting a new ice age. What's that all about?
I've heard a lot about that. That's been going on for ages now, and there's this other Atlantic current that they talk about that might be damaged, but it's all speculative. I wouldn't take that too seriously.
Here's one from Reuters. Iceland has declared a threat to the Atlantic Ocean.
This has been going on for ages. I'm sure people watching this will have read these stories long ago. That,
Earth on fire, Earth ice age. And then the founder of the Weather Network on CNN. Let's listen to what he has to say.
I resent you calling me a denier. That is a word meant to put me down. I'm a skeptic about climate change, and I want to make it darn clear, Mr. Kenney's not a scientist. I am. He's the CEO of the Weather Channel now. I was the founder of the Weather Channel, not the co-founder.
And I'm glad you did, because I am addicted to the Weather Channel. I watch a lot of cable news.
Now, hold on just a minute. I'm not done. And CNN has taken a very strong position on global warming that it is a consensus. Well, there is no consensus in science. Science isn't a vote. Science is about facts. And if you get down to the hard, cold facts, there's no question about it. Climate change is not happening. There is no significant man-made global warming now. There hasn't been any in the past, and there's no reason to expect any in the future. There's a whole lot of baloney, and yes, it has become a big political point of the Democratic Party and part of their platform, and I regret it's become political instead of scientific, but the science is on my side.
Well, not many people are going to agree with what he said there, I don't think. Not many not many people actually know their onions on the climate and on science. But he's certainly right to talk about how it's been politicized, and rather than dealt with by scientists and science. And Elizabeth May is a perfect example of that, as she comes out with just every day, really, every second breath that comes out of her mouth is misinformation about the climate. Talk about how there's a prospect of a dead planet. There is no prospect of climate change resulting in a dead planet. That's just not, no serious person says that. She's a ridiculous person.
Canadian military, a little bit of pushback. Canadian military rely on an army of public servants. And, Canada's top soldier there says, maybe not. Well, we talked about it yesterday. These people are the servants. No, you can go back. I don't have the other photo, but 300,000 of the public servants that make an average salary of 136,000 going to join the ranks of the Canadian military of 55,000, with the starting wage there like around $42,000 a year. They don't even come into the office 3 days a week. They don't show up for that. Watching Netflix and that, and they're going to go crawl around in ditches and kill strangers. What do you think? What are the options? What are the chances? This is just
I'm trying to think of a historical example. Like, I often try and bring historical context into our little chats. I'm trying to think of a historical example where some coddled, very cozy, comfy minority of people who are treated very well in a society have gone on to be strong, excellent fighters and soldiers. And I'm sorry to say, I can't think of an example. I mean, you could look at like conscription in the Second World War, but as most people will be aware, the average person in the 1930s, 1940s was a lot tougher than the civil servants in Canada in the 2020s. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's some validity to skepticism that these people could come in and be tough. I
mean, they talk about taking the military serious, but they still haven't made a decision on the F-35s, which has been close to 11 years now of hand-wringing on the F-35s. They still haven't committed on the subs, and why are they committing on diesel subs when they do commit instead of a nuclear sub, which makes no sense at all? And how are you going to get people to join them? They even talked about getting rid of some of the equipment that is out of service and out of date. And then the former lead in the D&D said, you can't do that because we won't have anything then. Like, until you replace it, you can't get rid of it. So it's just like a clown show. It's an absolute clown show. And we've tried time and time again to get our local MP, Stephen Fury, in here to talk about it. He refuses to. He refuses to answer emails. Steve McDonald has sent him 7 emails, won't even respond to an email, never mind come in for an interview. So this is what we get. We unaccountable, not transparent, and this is what you get from this government. That's what you get. We're going to see a lot of it later, too. You're going to see a lot of it. But the media spent a lot of time attacking Pierre Poilievre on his one defection into the Liberal Party and then one resignation. They spent most of their time discrediting his leadership. But here we have a couple of Liberals speaking out against the Liberal Party, and we'll see what they do with that. Pierre Poilievre actually challenged them. Let's see what this Liberal has to say.
First, stalled climate action, cutting tree planting, moving away from an emissions cap, winding down greener homes. No new money for climate action. On housing, it falls short of these specific promises in our platform, and it unfortunately falls well short of the wartime effort that many of us thought we'd deliver. The budget adds $140 billion in new spending over 5 years, $90 billion net after savings, and only 36% of the net new spending is capital. My kids shouldn't pay for today's military or for me to save $400 of income taxes. We see the budget commit to a new inefficient fossil fuel subsidy for LNG facilities. We do not need more public dollars chasing fossil fuels. Worse, we see major cuts of over $2.5 billion over 4 years to international development assistance. Overall, the budget meets the moment in part, but fairly, it does not live up to its promise of generational investments. First, stalled climate action, cutting tree planting, moving away from an emissions cap, winding down greener homes.
Well, you would think that the CBC, because they spend a lot of time with Poilievre, I think he dominated the top section there that one day, and like 8 stories on Poilievre's leadership. I can't find it at all. You know, like here's Jason Jacques getting, you know, like getting turfed, and here's this guy here speaking out against a Liberal MP speaking out against the budget, saying it doesn't do enough. Nothing on the CBC though. A couple of Donald Trump stories. Odd, no?
Indeed, and that's not the only trouble in the Liberal paradise, is it? I mean, we also have Gil Bo, and he's with Debrecen, I think her name is, the environment minister in Brazil, aren't they? Like they've gone off to pursue their little hobby horse, and they obviously represent that climate faction.
We have
There's
Stephen
a lot
Guilbeault
of grumblings going on within the Liberal Party, and then you've got this fella who's actually come out and he's upset because he was turfed out of the cabinet, isn't he? He was given a cabinet job, and then it was taken away from him. And he's just been a little attention-seeking crybaby, as so many politicians
Sounds
are.
familiar. The guy didn't get the deputy leader.
Yeah, but nonetheless, this is the kind of thing that political commentators and journalists love the most. You know, it's like a rare opportunity to see inside of the machine and to actually see a bit of humanity and a bit of disagreement and sniping. And yet, wow. as you say, I mean, that's so CBC aren't talking about it. What about CTV, our great commercial broadcasting?
While you're looking for that, I'll just.
Sorry, I've got to tell you what the third headline is. Right at the top, Hitler likely had genetic condition limiting sexual development. So, no, that's the answer.
Oh my God. I want to let this MP know that the climate change stuff is not to worry about because it's going to be replaced with carbon capture. Didn't you know? And Brookfield happens to be a leader in carbon capture, so there's going to be 60% tax credit. And you can even stack these credits, according to Mark Carney said that yesterday. So 60%, they're going to reach into your pockets. So that's why you don't need a greener homes program, because carbon capture is going to fill the pockets of companies like Brookfield, and that's Carbon Capture USA, that are coming from the States to take Canadian tax dollars and then have the ability to tax Canadian energy. So not to worry, not to worry. It's all going to be solved with carbon capture. And if they don't catch on to that, I'm not sure what they would catch on to. And Mark Carney off to his 21st trip. He's going to head out to the UAE really quickly, probably right after he does this announcement here in Terrace, I imagine. But he's been a world traveler, so, you know.
Also, the United Arab Emirates, again, water off a duck's back, isn't it? What's the point of even saying it? But the UAE has been involved in all manner of dastardly activities in recent years, supporting all kinds of horrible organizations, including the one side of the Sudanese civil war right now, that sort of ongoing atrocity and catastrophe, which Mark Carney is very upset about. But obviously, that's, again, you talk about the press holding him to account, trying to see if he's going to sort of stand up for his principles or whatever. Obviously not. He's off to the UAE. It's all smiles and handshakes and try to get some deals done and all the rest of it. But there's no mention of the sort of nefarious business that the Emiratis get up to. Not that I'm not necessarily saying that he must, but I'm just saying, according to his principles that he's laid out, wouldn't he be a little bit cross with the Emiratis and go over there and say, enough of that now, stop funding all these bad people?
I'm sure he's going there to kind of like let them know that they need to install an industrial carbon tax when they're selling their oil and LNG to other people. Let them know that they can't sell that stuff without an industrial carbon tax or carbon capture. Because I think, are we the only nation, like oil-rich nation, that punishes our energy sector? I believe we are.
There are a few others that have carbon taxes and things. Like I think Norway has a carbon tax, and some of the sort of European countries, but
energy-rich nations.
Yeah, it's not
Norway
common.
It's
not something that it's not something you'll find in many parts of the world. No.
And then they also said that David Eby said this. He said by the time they build the pipeline, nobody wants oil. And I think one of the Liberal MPs said it too. Was it Anita Anand or was it Melanie Joly? And we look at these charts here where they're the prospects of peak oil and peak gas and peak coal. Looks like they're wrong on these targets here. By 2050, oil continues to go up. Natural gas continues to go up.
But even then, even if it wasn't about that, it's also about, we keep hearing it's about this new world that we're entering where globalization is being dismantled. I mean, we're going to want oil in that scenario, aren't we? And we're going to want to be able to provide it to our friends. Surely, is that like Melanie Jolie said when she was asked a question about either steel or aluminium or something, and she was saying it doesn't really matter about the commercial side of an industry like this because it's so important to our national security. And she even said if we ended up in a state of war, we would need these materials. So therefore, we must keep this industry alive. Obviously, that applies to oil even more so, if anything.
Here's this thing from Brian Lilly. He's saying there's no pipeline in this deal. I mean, he is pretty connected. He's got a little cartoon there. But the EV mandate sounds like they're going to keep it, which is basically killing the auto sector in Canada. And that has been said is because of the extreme climate extremists in Carney's Liberals, Stephen Guilbeault being one of them.
Well, the idea is it's basically he's appeasing the forces within his own party so that he can maintain power. It's kind of like, to bring in a historical analogy here, it's kind of like an absolute monarch killing off grumbling lords or something like that, or bribing them so that they don't mount a challenge for the throne. That's basically what he's doing. He's making sure that he's in charge and he doesn't have rivals. And to do that, he has to maintain a policy that is quite obviously stupid and harmful to Canada and Canada's industries.
Well, we do appreciate your comments and your thoughts, and people are emailing us now with comments and thoughts. We're going to share those at the end too. So you do have comments and thoughts, good and bad. We've shared some bad ones. We've shared some good ones. We'll share them. We like your feedback. We appreciate it if you like, share, subscribe. You hit that button and hit the hard hit, whatever you want to hit. Hit the dislike button. Hit whatever you want to hit. But share this and help us get this out to more people, because Bill C-18 continues to cripple media in Canada. And we saw that yesterday when we did that story, with the newspapers crying when they want more money because the revenues continue to drop. But they're the ones that begged for Bill C-18. Didn't ask us, though. Anyway, moving on. Pierre Poilievre is going to be in town today. We're going to stream that speech he has here at the Capri Center, and then Iain and I will have reaction to it. But he's put out a challenge to media here. But one thing that we're going to say is we asked for an interview, and we were told no, and we were also told no questions, which is disappointing. No questions at this event, so which is odd. No questions, and this is the thing that puzzled Iain and I. Like in the States, and again, Marco Rubio is going to show you an education in that. In the States, they take questions all the time from the room. Sometimes has 300-400 journalists, and they take questions. Trump takes questions for hours, and in Canada, they seem to want to limit access to media. But let's listen to what Pierre has to say.
Aaron Collins, CBC. So Chris D'Entremont, just turning back to last week's said that your party is being run like a frat house. So I'm just curious what you think he means by that, and if you think.
Well, I think that CBC had to be. Are you with CBC, by the way?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay, right.
So I'm just curious if you think that could lead to more MPs leaving your caucus, and what you think he means by that.
Well, first of all, CBC has had to correct the falsehoods that they put into that story. So I encourage you to tell Canadians about the falsehoods you published and explain why you did that. But I would ask if you agree with Mr. D'Entremont, or do you believe he was telling the truth when he said, and I'm going to quote, "Now, after 6 months under a new Prime Minister who promised financial discipline, Canadians are still waiting." He said that he would be judged by the cost at the grocery store. Well, Canadians are judging him, and they are not impressed. Since the Liberals came to power, food prices have risen 40%. We have heard it many times here today. It is deliberate, and it is unacceptable. It is inhumane for a G7 country. Mr. D'Entremont said that Liberal food price inflation is inhumane. Do you believe that he was telling the truth when he said that? Yes. Oh, you can.
Want to ask me questions?
I did already. I already said that your report from CBC was wrong, and we have corrected the record. We put out a statement. We stand by the statement. But I have a statement here from Mr. D'Entremont. He says, since the Liberals came to power, food prices have risen 40%.
That's good.
We have heard it many times.
You know, the point is really, where's the stories of the Liberal MPs speaking out against the budget? Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, if we're really worried about dissension in the ranks on one side, we should be worried about the dissension in the ranks on the other side.
Well, especially when the other side has power. You know, this side, Pierre Poilievre's side, doesn't really have any power, other than, like I said, when they vote in the House of Commons and on the committees, they don't really have any other power. Whereas the Liberal Party has power over all of our lives. Everything that we experience here in this country is basically within their power. They have power over us. But I would just say about Poilievre here, I find it so peculiar, his attitude to the media, because as you saw there, he's been asked a question by the CBC. He also gives interviews to the CBC. Not so long ago, if you remember, he sat down in the studio. I think it was a radio interview, wasn't it, with that woman who's quite senior in the CBC. Had a sort of pointless, antagonistic interview with her. He does interviews with CTV, actually, with a bit more regularity. And then the only time, really, that you ever hear him answering questions is times like this, where it's the usual faces from the usual outlets who follow him around to his press conferences, or it's in the House of Commons where he speaks to the Parliamentary Press Gallery, which is an organisation that he's explicitly condemned in the past as a kind of special interest group. And he gets asked the same questions by the same people, and then he whines on and on and on about CBC and CTV. Meanwhile, he refuses to take questions from independent or local press in a place like Kelowna. How often does he come to Kelowna? Extremely rare for him to come to Kelowna. Won't take questions, won't consent to an interview, even though he's here. Or he's going to be in the city. He's going to be like 5 minutes, 10 minutes drive away from where you are right now. Won't come and do an interview with you. I've been trying to get an interview with Pierre Poilievre for about 3 years. That's what it comes to. And I've never been granted an interview. But he will speak to CBC, which he despises, calls dishonest. He will speak to all the rest of them. It's particularly hard to swallow that, because Pierre Poilievre has made such a big deal out of how much he loves freedom and freedom of the press, and how angry he is about the lack of independent voices within the Canadian media, and how angry he is with CBC and all the rest of it. If that's true, why do you never do interviews with independent media? 3 years I've tried to get an interview with him. And the worst thing of all, and we had this conversation yesterday, the worst thing of all is that the Liberal Party, which really does not have the same sort of commitment to freedom, at least expressed commitment to freedom that he does, the Liberal Party is better and more transparent than the Conservative Party. From my experience as a journalist, they are better. They say yes to interviews more often than the Conservative Party. I mean, make of that what you will. It makes my head explode. I have absolutely no idea what his media strategy is. As somebody who's worked in the media for a very long time, I have no clue what he's doing, because it really makes no sense to me.
A couple of caveats there, though. Dan Elbis here in Kelowna and West Kelowna has been exemplary and has always agreed to do interviews, and I've done many with Dan Elbis, and as have you. And he usually responds within, a couple hours. And also I have an interview scheduled today with MP Dan Mazier, which is, we did ask for one, Pierre Poilievre, and I have interviewed Pierre Poilievre, I think 2 or 3 times in the past. Long time ago, though, when he was running for the leadership and when he was more open to media. And, it puzzles me as he does interviews with the likes of, bloggers, Jasmine Lane and stuff like that. And here we are, a local media outlet, and I hear that they're trying to support independent media outlets that are being crushed and crippled by Bill C-18. And we asked for an interview, and we've even said that when we were dealing with Sebastian when he was head of their PR, and Sebastian used to phone me. We've even said, we'll fly out there, we'll do whatever it is, we'll do a sit down, we'll do whatever. Like, we made it so accommodating.
I mean, we're unusually transparent about our operations, aren't we? There's no media outlet in Canada that is anything like us, I don't think, in terms of how we lay it all on the table. So you know what we know now. Can you explain it? What's the explanation? I don't know if anybody has any ideas. What is going on? Because it's not like we are not absolutely not liberal shills, are we? That can't be said of us. He accuses the CBC and other outlets, Canadian press, of being guilty of that. Don't think anybody serious could ever make that accusation about us. And as you mentioned, Dan Albers, we've interviewed Dan Albers so many times, and I think he has a good time with us because we actually allow him to speak and we don't try gotchas and things like that. Yeah. Where's the leader of the opposition? He lost Kelowna. You know, that was a real strong seat for the Conservative Party. It was like pretty much a safe seat, and it was lost. Like, maybe it would be worth your time to speak to a news outlet based in Kelowna.
Say what you will of Donald Trump. He will do interviews with almost anybody, even people he absolutely hates. And he will actually take questions like for hours from all kinds of journalists from different countries all the time. And he's the threat to democracy. He provides access and he allows follow-up questions. I would even have, if Mark Carney sat across from me and told me that I was junk or crap, or like Donald Trump says, you're shit or whatever, I would take that. You know what I mean? But at least allow us to ask a question and then be straight with us. Again, we're going to play. You got to stick around for the end here because this education by Marco Rubio is what we should expect from our politicians. And here's another thing that I want to point out, and this is the biggest frustration with the Liberals, the unaccountability and the lack of transparency. We ask for information. Holly Doan does a good job of FOIs. But here it is, like a couple years later, we get to learn this stuff because we've asked right now for the meta spend that the Liberals say is the devil, and that's why Bill C-18 is in place. We've asked for how much they spent with Meta since the election, and they won't give it to us. They say they'll give it to us in 2026. And here's this stuff starts to leak out now, well after, because they keep it hidden. Trudeau spent $11 billion. That's with a B, right? On overseas gender programs during his tenure.
Yeah, I'm choosing to laugh. Put away the tears. Bring out the smiles.
$11 billion. $11 billion on gender programs during... Who got the money? Because if we can't even audit it because they give it to different countries, did the money actually go anywhere? Where did the money go? $11 billion.
Probably into the pockets of corrupt magnates. Although I would say this is an opinion piece in the Western Standard, so this is... You know, maybe take it with a pinch of salt.
How is things doing? I mean, you look at the meat counter. How are things going? But like, let's even make it better. This is from Holly Doan's Blacklock. $6.2 billion for a tick box exercise, a globetrotting climate program that cost taxpayers billions, became a tick box exercise for federal managers, said an internal report. These are internal reports. Justin Trudeau expanded the climate financing program during a failed 2020 campaign to gain a seat at the United Nations Security Council. Remember that? When he was doing everything he could to basically buy a job with the UN. Departmental staff identified fulfilling an increasing number of budget targets, challenging within a commitment time frame as it impacted project selection and made the process feel like a tick box exercise. Cabinet pledged $9.15 billion for climate financing program. A total of $6.2 billion was spent mainly in Asia. You know, the Chinese are just exemplary at climate change, right? Like, it's absolutely, this person did not care about Canada.
And the world just took the pee, really. I mean, these almost like bribes is another way to look at this.
Yep.
And I can remember all that fuss. It was like a top news story for ages, wasn't it? What a terrible time that was. It was like real news junkies and politics junkies were like parched. We were dying in the desert looking for an oasis of news. And it was stuff like this that just dominated. But all this is, yeah, it's just an attempt to win favor, isn't it? And the rest of the world took the money and gave Canada a slap in the face and a wink.
Remember this, Trudeau? We are determined to help United Nations make greater strides in support of its goal for all humanity. Trudeau was looking for, he definitely had some narcissistic tendencies that he needed his ego stroked and he needed to be this guy on stage. And I guess maybe that's why. Maybe he's going to join Katy Perry on stage.
There's quite a lot of people in the Canadian elite that have that, suffering from that particular disease. The idea that Canada needs to be this like great global power that goes around and distributes money to charities and things like that. It's just, I mean, it is kind of like megalomania, I suppose, but it's also people that are just, I think they're bored and they're so disconnected from reality in this country that that is their priority. That really is their priority in life.
These two stories are $20 billion. These two stories alone are $20 billion. Imagine what we could do with $20 billion right now. And that's not the beginning of it, but everybody feeds at the trough, and here's a new one. Liberal MP Ariel Kaibenga of London, Ontario, yesterday would not explain why she billed more than $173,000 for 9 days worth of personal costs in her brief tenure as government House Leader. That's a pretty good spending spree, no? 9 days. 9 days.
It's just bizarre, isn't it? Can you imagine trying to pull this kind of thing off when the CRA comes knocking? It's like, what'd you spend all that money on? Just like, it was a short-lived position. I can confirm our institutions are strong. Maybe I'll say that. Next time the CRA asks for any information, I'll just say, I can confirm that our institutions are strong.
She surprisingly, Blacklock's reached out and she did not respond to questions regarding justification of the $173,574 over that brief period while she attended, ready for this? How many official events did she attend? 0. Attended 0 official duties and remained out of Ottawa. But she racked up $173,574. And she doesn't want to speak to the reporters on it. Imagine that. If this has happened in the United States, there'd be a feeding frenzy on this. A feeding frenzy. And is this story on CBC? Did you see it when we looked? Because I don't think we need to look.
Never will be.
Never will be. $173,000 in 9 days. 9 days. And attended 0 official events. What could she spend the money?
The worst thing is that the refusal to explain, I think. That's worse. As usual, the aftermath and the way it's treated is worse than the initial incident.
But hey, let's get rid of the PBO because he'd be the one looking at this. Let's get rid of him because he's probably going to say, what is this? The internal auditor will probably look at this, in 3 years? Had enough yet? Had enough yet? Can you share this? Because you're not going to see this on CBC. You're not going to see this on CBC. No.
You might see the opposite. You might see like valiant public servant keeps spending law as she preserves democracy in Canada.
Or Liberal MP stokes the economy, injecting $173,000 into the economy. Health Canada, here's another one. Health Canada refuses to reveal details after the Public Health Agency of Canada lost $20 million of pharmaceutical products from its national stockpile this year due to temperature deviation. Citing national security for its lack of transparency. Everything seems to be a lack of transparency. It seems to be national security. Just the old answer, right? National security. Storing of drugs is national security.
Because somebody forgot to turn the heating on or something like that. Or the air conditioner broke and all the drugs went off and couldn't be used anymore. That's probably what happened. Though they're not, I'm guessing because of temperature deviation. That's what that sounds like to me. Or just some idiot set it to the wrong temperature in the room that it was being stored in. But what a load of cobblers to blame that on. Or to say, oh, national security, lads. Can't tell you anything about this.
And Dan Elmas put this out here. You know, remember when they were talking about, there was all this talk that every department was asked to make cuts, the 15%, and Francois Philippe Champagne, you can do his voice better than me, that everybody needs to cut. Let's hear it.
He was chatting recently and I was watching him and he said something funny.
Canadians expected.
Yeah. No, the best one, the very best Champagne line, my personal favorite, is when he came out and he started when he was first talking about the cuts. He was like letting it sort of drip out a little bit, wasn't he? And he said, even my own mother, she said to me, you gotta get your house in order. You can't just spend when you have not got the money there in the bank. So talking about his mother, that is my favorite moment for him.
Turns out 8 fewer departments and agencies are being asked to slash their budgets at least 15% over the next 3 years. A move, one economist says, cost-cutting exercise is not thought through. Imagine that. But our friend, the professor, they don't like the professor, the food professor. The Liberals don't like him because he always calls out stuff. Clone meat coming soon. And wasn't it the CBC or CTV putting out that story that expired food, still good for you. It's cheaper. And now you can have some clone food. Even if the food is safe, the current evidence suggests it is. Canadians deserve to know. Shouldn't we know at least if we're going to eat clone meat? So we can make a choice? You would think.
No, it's going to become the next, it's going to become like the next social faux pas, isn't it? It's like, oh my God, you actually care whether it's cloned meat? What are you, a Nazi?
The control clowns will be coming out. Here's a reporter from Juno News trying to get here. This is exactly how Stephen Guilbeault treats us as well. Just watch this. They actually went to COP30. Juno News went to COP30. Good for them. Watch this.
Of relief from Ottawa finally, but here's that clip for you guys now. Is Canada moving back on its climate commitments, sir? Are we moving backwards or forwards, sir? Is there any case you would support a West Coast pipeline? Tomorrow morning, there will be new projects announced by the PM. Anything at all, Mr. Guilbeault? And just like that, yesterday as well, day two, same thing.
And he did get
it's just appalling.
He did get a chance to talk to the Chinese people. So here's a Canadian journalist that travels all the way to COP30 and can't get a quote from somebody that he funds their job.
And also somebody that says he's like this great defender of Canadian democracy and Canadian institutions and the sort of democratic culture of this country. Show me some evidence. That girl walking alongside him is, I'll not use her name, though you could easily find her anyway if you're interested. She's his press person. She's the person that I've been exchanging emails with. And that sort of should tell you everything. There's the press trying to speak to Stephen Guilbeault, and he's walking along with the woman who's paid for by us, by our taxes, to facilitate that very thing. Her existence is based on facilitating interviews. That's why she's there. And she's just like, if anything, she was kind of putting a bit of a barrier there, wasn't she? Like trying to set up a wall. It's just,
if anything I can get from that,
they say the words, they wear the uniforms and all the rest of it, but it's not the same. It's not the same thing anymore, And this is how I feel about democracy in many ways. I have to say, it's very depressing. But they're kind of like wearing the suits, and they're saying the words that you're supposed to say if you're a Democrat. But where are the actions? You can't just say you're a Democrat. You have to act like one. And I don't know. I'm not seeing it myself. Maybe somebody else can point out what I'm missing.
This from the people that say Trump is the threat to democracy. They are the threat to democracy. And if you can look at this from like a humorous point of view, obviously Stephen Guilbeault is illiterate because he can't read the many emails you've sent. And so that's his excuse. And in this one, he's obviously deaf and blind because he didn't see him or hear him walking beside him. Like here, the Juno News, they're a new news organization in Canada. And whether you like them or not, they spent money to go there. Their own money, not like the CBC. They'll be there too. The CBC is there. You're going to see in a bit here. CBC's there. And they spent your money to get there. These guys spent their own money to go there. And they're just asking an elected official of Canada for a comment. And again, Donald Trump would stop and at least say, you're crap and I don't want to talk. You know what I mean? But this guy refuses to speak. He refuses to answer to the Canadian public. Refuses.
And nobody stands up. Nobody stands up for...
CBC will say that this isn't a real journalist. CBC has an appalling record of sticking up for independent journalism as well. an appalling record.
But nobody will say anything. Pierre Poilievre isn't even going to say anything. The Conservative Party, even though they supposedly stand for independent journalists, they're going to say nothing. Obviously, nobody will say anything. And yet, if you can imagine it flipped, and you can imagine some sort of new lefty sort of media outlet, them doing the same thing. Let's say the Conservatives won the last election, trying to follow them and ask a question. It would be all over the place, and CBC would be leading the charge, saying, are we still a democracy when Pierre Poilievre won't respond to questions from this fine media organization?
Well, CBC goes
surely you've seen enough at this point to make decisions and make sort of judgments about who's in charge.
CBC goes to the White House and screams questions and demands answers. But hey, like you're right there. There's no competition. You can just stop and answer a question. But here's CBC doing a piece here talking about how China is leading in climate change. And like, if you believe that, I've got some bridges to sell you. We'll take a second here. I don't play any second, I hope.
For the first time, there's no USA pavilion, no government delegation, and the White House abandoning these talks leaves a sizable financial hole.
The European Union and Canada are concerned because the U.S. was part of the group of countries that really did provide the climate finance that's necessary.
The U.S. has taken some heat in Belen. Chile's president saying Trump is walking his citizens into the abyss. Climate negotiators and smaller countries are looking to other countries for leadership.
China has stepped into the vacuum already. I think they will also play a very strong role diplomatically.
China is leading by a wide margin on renewable energy growth, last year installing more solar than all the world combined.
As an American, I respect and admire what China is doing at scale as it relates to supply chains and manufacturing. And the United States of America better wake up to that.
The leader of the world's fourth largest economy, and with an eye on the next Democratic nomination, Governor Newsom is pushing the power of states and cities to work around national government's climate blocks.
US mayors, whether that's projects on building resilience, on improving transport or cutting emissions, they're trying to be.
China leads in climate change. Okay.
Certainly true. They do lead in emissions causing climate change. That's right. They are the main culprit.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
they lead in
they're
solar
responsible
panels.
for a third of emissions. 2/3 of their energy mix is coal.
Yeah.
Considered to be a crime against humanity by when these same people are talking about Western countries. And also, they've joined with the G77 group of basically developing, they call themselves developing nations, like poor nations in many cases. China's joined forces with them at this COP event and said, let's go ahead with all of these emissions reductions targets, except none of us are going to do anything. It's all going to be the Western countries that are going to do it.
Imagine
what
that,
are these people talking about? Just because China manufactures solar panels, there's two sides to that coin. One is also that they've accrued a gigantic amount of power in this authoritarian communist dictatorship with rare earths and all the rest of it, but lots of manufacturing. And then you have Gavin Newsom being a useful idiot, applauding that and saying, wow, well done, China. It's just, who could possibly take these people seriously? I just can't imagine who would do it.
I mean, I'm a CPA and they're cherry-picking stats. Yes, China leads in solar. Yes, it does. But it said that it will lead in all forms of energy, and it doesn't care, and it's not going to sacrifice its economy for climate change. So yes, it leads in solar and sells those solar panels all around the world. Most solar panels in Canada come from China. And also, they wouldn't manufacture them here because they don't like the refining process for the rare earths, because rare earths typically aren't rare. It's the refining process that makes them rare. And China does it because it doesn't have the environmental headways that they have here in Canada. And, like for Gavin Newsom to say those things and for, these other people to say that China leads in climate change, it's an assault on your intelligence.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Somebody says Canada's not a serious country anymore, if it ever was. I definitely think Canada used to be a serious country. I would say that. Like Canada in the 20th century, for most of the 20th century, was like a model in governance. It was a very sensible country, I think. And that's kind of like the foolish people that have been in charge in recent years. They're kind of dining out on that the sense that the previous leaders had, because they can make a lot of stupid decisions and we can still be okay. And that's because of those people in the 20th century that created this kind of buffer.
How, if we want to make some cuts in the government, I'm going to offer some free advice for the Liberal government and the Conservatives as well. Why don't we cut the photographers that travel around with Anita Anand and Melanie Joly and Mark Carney for these photo ops? Because here's another one. Another photo op. This is like Anita Anand puts out, who's eating this stuff? Like that next image there. Here she is, the G7 is united behind Ukraine. The only country that matters to Ukraine, if you ask them, it's the Americans because of the weapon. It's not Canada. Canada's standing there making these virtue signaling things and making a post like this. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I did do an interview with one of the executive here for, and I just remind you to go read it, because they're going to talk about housing again today. I guarantee it. And she said the federal budget fails to support home ownership. That story's on Kelowna now. You can go read it. And the interview's there as well. Steve McNall did the story up. Like the four, make home ownership and affordability a national priority, reduce taxes, fees, levies, and development cost charges, ease the mortgage stress test and down payment rules. And, I had that conversation with it. The big nut to crack, and this is it. This is the big nut to crack. It's the down payment for young people, because most people are paying a mortgage equivalent of the rent. Help them with the down payment. Like, come up with, and I could come up with 3 of them, and I put them on my LinkedIn over the years. They're not hard to do, but they refuse to do that. It's like they almost refuse to want to solve the problem. And then Team Canada, we're just moving on real quick. Team Canada, is there a Team Canada? Because now Doug Ford is and Quebec are about to go at it over doctors. Here's the Doug Ford reacting to 300 doctors that are now applied to Ontario.
Doctor recruitment, last time you said Quebec doctors should call you. Those remarks were badly received by Premier Legault. Knowing what's happening now in Quebec with Bill 2, what do you say to Quebec people that are angry because they lost their doctors because they're coming to Ontario?
What I say, same as I say in Ontario, we don't put a gun to anyone's head. We don't handcuff any of our doctors to stay in Ontario. If you treat your doctors well and you respect them, they're going to stay and they're going to have a thriving practice. In saying that, some of our docs may move out west, they may move out east for personal reasons. And if any docs around the country, around the world, that's what we're attracting, doctors around the world right now to come and practice in Ontario, because they know it's a great place to, number one, live, raise a family, and start their business, because the doctors' offices are their personal businesses. So we welcome everyone. I'm not targeting Quebec doctors. If they call me, I return their call.
Well, there you go. That'll going to go over well.
It was always a fantasy, wasn't it? Team Canada. Somebody is saying that we never talk about e pluribus unum. Is saying we never talk about Quebec, and those bills there. Those are French language bills. We have talked about that actually, and we have talked quite a lot about Quebec. But I've talked about, I go to Montreal quite frequently actually, and I have conversations with Anglophone Montrealers who are just pulling their hair out about all the French language madness in Montreal. And if anyone's been to Montreal, it's the biggest city in Quebec and all that, you might think it was this like bastion of Frenchness or whatever, but it's not. The history of Montreal is very English in terms of the language. It used to be Canada's commercial capital. It used to be Canada's Toronto, basically, and there was an abundance of English spoken there. It was a majority.
They had a stock exchange as well, the MSE at one point.
Yeah, but they've been gradually chased out, and it's tragic. It's so funny that we talk about the UN. We take the piss out of the UN a lot, don't we? Where's the UN talking about that? That could easily qualify for some kind of persecution of minorities or something like that. The way that they treat English speakers in Quebec, particularly Montreal. But I don't know. It's a Quebec thing though as well, isn't it? Like, Quebec is just, if we start talking about Quebec, we'll never stop. So that's another thing, isn't it?
The Law Society of Ontario considers replacing the bar exam with skills-based course. Okay. I think AI might replace them. I mean, that seems ridiculous on the surface, but hey, what do I know?
Yeah, why not, eh?
Why not?
I'd love to see how they justify this, and I'm sure it's a good laugh. I'm sure it has a little bit of critical theory in there.
I don't have much on BC yet today. The government of BC says new rules, though, applying for sick notes, which take effect immediately. So you can't ask your employees for sick notes for short-term absences 5 straight days or fewer in a calendar year. So no, because some employers try to control their sick days, because you're now in British Columbia, you're allowed 5 paid sick days. You know, some companies had that before, and then some of the people try to control that with asking for a note from the doctor because it was a pain in the butt. So you go to the doctor, and so now they're saying no. I mean, it is kind of like a nuisance, right? You go to the doctor to get a note to say that you're sick. I mean, if those are the type of employees you have, I guess, if like you're worried that they're abusing their sick days, then maybe you should look at getting different employees, right?
Yeah, it is a bit mad though. I often find there's a lot of things with doctors where it's like, when you read something, or like when you get something from a pharmacy, you get some pills or whatever, like over-the-counter stuff. It almost always says like, consult your doctor, and then stuff like this, sick notes. It's like, I can't even consult my doctor if my leg's hanging off. What makes you think I'm going to be able to like go down to the GP and ask about some paracetamol or whatever?
Millions of Canadians can't even get access to a family doctor, and to get a doctor's note would mean to go sit in ER usually, which could be 11 hours. You might even get more sick sitting in there in ER, catching like 9 other things.
Well, that's maybe what people that want to be sick, Munchausen's types, they can do that. They can say, I was trying to get a sick note in ER and I ended up catching malaria. So I'm really sick now.
Here's a clue for you. Don't tell your employer that you're sick with the flu. Just say you're having a mental stress day. That's it. It's over. That's it.
Yeah.
All over.
Definitely.
Here's our international news. Are we going to run an intro or probably not, eh? We got a new guy on the board there.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
Look at that, eh? We have, so Rubio. Marco Rubio is going to give you a bit of education. This is how you're supposed to talk to media. This is a short clip. He stood there for, I think it was close to an hour taking questions. Marco Rubio. But I'm just going to play a small clip here on Rubio. And you notice a couple things with Rubio. He walked over there. It's not in this clip. He walked over. This is, where do you want me to stand? Okay, I'm going to stand here. And okay, let's go. Let's get going here. And he stood there for close to an hour answering questions. And he answered clearly and decisively. And here's one of his answers. Go ahead.
I don't think that the European Union gets to determine what international law is. No, they certainly don't get to determine is how the United States defends its national security. The United States is under attack from organized criminal narco-terrorists in our hemisphere, and the president is responding in the defense of our country. I do find it interesting that all these countries want us to send, and supply, for example, nuclear-capable Tomahawk missiles to defend Europe. But when the United States positions aircraft carriers in our hemisphere where we live, somehow that's a problem. So I would say that the United States is, and this president has made very clear, his job is to protect the United States from threats against the United States, and that is what he's doing in this operation. I don't think that the European...
That's good. Again, you can go watch the full news conference. It's a basic education how a press conference should run. He took questions and he took follow-up questions from the reporters, and he stood there for close to an hour just answering questions. And this is in Canada here. They took these questions at the G7. And
they also give pretty meaty answers. Like, that's quite a beefy answer there. Basically calling out the EU for being just being posers, basically, and trying to like underline who's got the real power in that relationship.
He didn't have to open the manual and say, which words do we use in this one? Catalyst, like bilateralism, multilateralism. He didn't use it, trying to use all these buzzwords that our politicians try to use and confuse you. Like when you listen to Mark Carney speak, you're just like, what? What's going on?
That's because Marco Rubio, he speaks to be understood in most cases. Most times I've watched him. He wants to be understood. He's using language, he's using his voice to communicate an idea in as usually as simple a way as possible, because that's what he wants to do. He wants people to know what he's thinking. Whereas Mark Carney, Anita Anand, and others, they're speaking because they want to leave the stage. They want to go away. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to tell you what they're thinking. So they waffle and they mumble and they mispronounce words and, you know, try and introduce like 5 and 6 syllable words to try and baffle people. And then they just walk away. That's the difference, isn't it? Because they don't want to communicate.
He's a different caliber, and you know, it's been said even by Trump himself that this is probably the best Secretary of State ever. And I've watched a lot of them throughout the years, and Marco Rubio is the real deal. And you know, there's a lot of talk that he'll be the next, you know, Republican candidate for president. And he's been part of those 7 wars that have been settled here in the world, and he's working on the one with Ukraine and Russia. And he, in this press conference, he lays out what the stumbling block is right now in the Russia-Ukraine thing, that the Russians want all of Donetsk and even territories they don't hold. And they said the Ukrainians, they don't want to give up more than that. So it does sound like negotiations are ongoing, because they're talking about land right now, what they get to keep and not keep. And he says the Russians are losing about 7,000 troops a day just on their side. So it's a press conference well worth going to listen to, because you're not going to get that information from CBC or Anita Anand for that matter. You're just going to get a bunch of virtue signaling nonsense from her.
Because it's embarrassing, isn't it? And CBC doesn't like to embarrass the government. I think they take that. That's kind of their responsibility. Let's not embarrass.
They don't
but
want
I
to
would,
show...
again, call you out on that, or disagree with you anyway, that he's the best Secretary of State ever. Like, I think I would still prefer Thomas Jefferson myself.
All right. In our lifetime, people that were alive. I didn't get to experience Thomas Jefferson. I'm not that old. Do you know what I mean? I'm not that old. My
The
lifetime.
naysayers won't believe it.
I'll qualified for you in my lifetime. You got me with Thomas Jefferson. Somebody said, surprised we don't have more viewers. Yeah, help us share it. And they took away our audience. We had 200,000 on Facebook and Instagram, and they took it away from us. And with Bill C-18, and then selectively decide who gets funding. And guess who gets to stick their face in the trough of Canadian tax dollars? That's right, the CBC. And you tell me if they're doing a good job. Go look at the stories we covered today. Go look at what we covered today, and look at what they're covering today. All they have is like TDS. They have a TDS problem, and they just pump the Liberal tires. That's their job, and that's an expensive PR department, if you ask me. Trump there with this is the first too. He has the Syrian president there. Let's listen to this.
This is men's fragrance. Yeah. This is it's the best fragrance. Come here, man. I have more here, sir. Okay. So what we'll do is just take that, Joe, put it in, and then the other one is your one.
The guy cracks me up. He's like a salesman all the time, selling hats, cologne. He's putting cologne on a guy.
Was that his own branded cologne?
I have no idea. But he's putting cologne on a guy that they labeled as a terrorist not too long ago.
No, I mean, yeah. He is literally a jihadist. He was involved in an Al-Qaeda splinter group, basically, in the Syrian civil war.
But this is his secret.
The most unimaginable atrocities, like heads on spikes and things like that. And now Donald Trump apparently is quite attracted to him.
But
I think he wants to take him to the Lincoln bedroom.
This is how he wins people over, and this is how he solves wars. And it's with economics. And it is his secret. He just says, you can have war, or you can have economic prosperity. Which one do you want? And typically they're choosing economic prosperity. Somebody should ask the question of Canada. Would you like economic prosperity? Would you like economic prosperity? I'll spell it for you. I'll spell what economic prosperity looks like in Canada. OIL, pipeline. That's how you spell it. That's how you spell it.
Well, what it looks like in your day-to-day life is you can buy beef, basically, and then not worry about it, and then just be a normal event in your life where you go get yourself a steak.
But if you think about it, if you watch this clip and you listen to all the TDS stuff on Trump on that he's a Nazi and a fascist on CBC, right? If you go on there, all this stuff, the TDS, I mean, we should ask CBC, how many TDS articles have they done this year on Trump? And how many have they done that actually recognize the good that he's done in the world? How many? Like, what would be the
ratio? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know why I had this in here, but well, let's play this clip here. I think it's on the BBC here. Let's Carolyn Levitt.
I will say, I know the president has a very good relationship with Prime Minister Starmer. You have been there, you've seen them in their interactions, you've questioned both leaders in your time joining us when we've gone to the United Kingdom a few different times now. However, he has always been very frank when he disagrees with leaders, even whom he has a good relationship with. And the BBC, being a fair news organization, is definitely an outlet. I think these two leaders would disagree. The president has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidized by British taxpayers, and he thinks that's extremely unfortunate for the great people of the United Kingdom and Great Britain. And I think that the president was deeply concerned by the editing, the purposeful and dishonest editing of his speech that was so clearly fake news, and he rightfully dubbed that term many years ago, and this is a classic example of that. We see it in the United States all the time. We see it now in the United Kingdom. As you know, the president's external legal counsel has filed a lawsuit against the BBC. We expect that to continue, and whether they apologize or not is up to them. Thanks for being here, Bev.
Yeah, and I think we had another one there on that. I mean, it sounds like Trump is going ahead and suing BBC regardless on whether or not they apologize. And I mean, that was pretty damning what they did. So
terrible. I mean, it's just the people that have followed the BBC for many years, like me, are aware how biased it's become. It's a shadow of itself. Again, it's like another one of those institutions where they have the logo and they occupy the same buildings, but it isn't the same institution. It's something else entirely now. It's much more like The Guardian, another sort of leftist, I don't know what you want to call it, left liberal sort of agitprop machine that exists in England.
I would say that the bad is the BBC
they disgraced themselves during the George Floyd. This is like nobody talks about this anymore for some reason, but during the George Floyd saga, they just completely threw professionalism as journalists out the window. They just disgraced themselves. Every hour of every day was a disgrace.
A couple of big differences.
They've been doing it for years. They've been doing it for decades now.
A couple of big differences between the ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, and BBC and CBC is that the BBC really has weight in the world, right? I mean, they are like like one of the big outlets in the world, where CBC is, you could call them a liberal arm of the liberal government, and that would be probably a fair statement. But they don't have significant weight in the world. I mean, CBC is really, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, they've compromised themselves so much, I don't think anybody much pays attention to them. They don't, because the BBC does do good articles as well. They do. They have lots of really good journalists, but their editorial team obviously has a bias, and it is leaked into something that you could easily call election interference, and of the most like a serious kind, of a sitting president that they did, and it was a hit job. And you would say that was election interference and an attack on the United States government. And the old saying is, strike a tiger, strike them dead. And they did strike, and same as CBC, they continue to strike a tiger. And the tiger is alive and well. And the old saying back in your day was, strike a king, strike him dead. Because you don't want what's coming, right?
Yeah, that was the if you wanted to launch a coup in the old days, that was, and pretty much these days as well, your motto has to be victory or death, win or die. Yeah, and they're gonna die.
And then here, somebody was asking for this earlier. One of our readers was asking for this earlier. Yeah, and this is just a tip of the corruption that goes on, and we've heard so much. I actually have one of the Friends of Ukraine coming in this year. Dennis Storchuk is going to be in, I believe, tomorrow. We're going to do an interview. We've done quite a few. He'll let us know what's going on in Kiev. We've done several interviews with Dennis Storchuk and Friends of Kiev. He's got family there still, and he gives us a pretty good update of what's going on. I had a young man in here, 17 years old, that was, they can't get his PR status, and if he gets sent home, guess where he's going? And we all know where he's going. As soon as he gets off the plane, they're going to grab him, and they're going to send him to the front. He said all his friends are there, and his dad is at the front lines, and he showed me images from the front line, and he showed me the drones and everything. He said it used to be 100 drones a day on the attack, and it's up in the 500. So yeah, we are getting, I mean, for a small outlet, again, we are getting stories that a lot of CBC won't even cover, right? Like, it's just amazing. But here it is. Zelensky calls for dismissal of 2 ministers in $140 million energy corruption scandal. I mean, this is the tip of the iceberg. Again, the Canadian government's committed $4.5 billion, and they say they can't tell us where it's going to be spent. Why? Why?
National security.
And who's going to be in charge? Who's the new envoy for Canada and in Ukraine? Who is that? Chrystia Freeland.
Chrystia Freeland.
She's been good with money.
Partly Ukrainian herself.
She's been good with money. Just look at her history. She was the finance minister. She's got a stellar record. Maybe they should send Jason Scott there.
This should be no surprise to anybody that this has happened. And once again, it's the people implicated are very close allies of Zelensky's. You know, corruption. For some reason, we were our glorious leaders when the Ukraine-Russia war kicked off, or this phase of it kicked off. Our glorious leaders thought that they could suddenly just turn off the brains of the populaces that they ruled over, and that they would no longer remember that Ukraine is one of the world's most corrupt countries. Apparently that was just going to vanish into thin air, and then we're going to give hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. It's obviously mad, isn't it? I mean, it has not stopped being exotically corrupt in that country just because they're at war. It hasn't changed, and you know, here's the evidence. And Zelensky himself is implicated in this because he tried to get rid of a couple of the there's 2 new anti-corruption task forces or whatever organizations that were created, and he tried to get rid of them, didn't he, not so long ago?
Who used to work for
the only reason he stopped is because the Europeans said, we'll not let you in the EU if you do this.
Who used to work for the Ukrainians? What was that guy's name? One of the Ukrainian companies. What was this guy? What was his name? All right, Hunter. Hunter Biden. Yeah, Hunter. Maybe he's back over there helping dole out the cash because he can't sell his paintings anymore.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to give him millions of dollars in salary to be a legal advisor now. Now that his dad is no longer in power.
This scandal goes way back to even Sam Bankman-Fried with FTX, where they were funneling billions and billions and billions of dollars of crypto assets into Zelensky's hands and then backdooring it back through to none other than Democratic elections. Imagine that. Imagine that.
But it's almost like something that it's like an unspeakable truth, isn't it? This because we're on the side of the Ukrainians, therefore we can't talk about this corruption. It's just a one-track mind as usual, isn't it? And it's being treated like a moron by your leaders. It's just
well, we got to start.
Very tiresome.
We got to end with some good news always. So we got some good news and some fun stuff here. But Elon Musk's super good Starlink internet deal. So this is like I have Starlink at my home. I had it for about going on 3 years now. I've had 3 Starlink dishes now going, including one mounted on the roof of my Model Y. And look at this stuff now. So you can get different price type, residential light, residential. And this Starlink Mini, which you can mount on your boat, your car, or whatever, or take it camping or whatever, you have internet anywhere in the world. And it takes literally like minutes to connect it to satellites that are already in the sky. Doug Ford. that had a deal with Starlink and canceled it for political reasons. And now people in Ontario and in the northern, outlying areas can just wait for Canada to launch its space program and some satellites. So, I don't know. Good luck. And then another one here. This is, I follow Farzad. He's a really kind of cool guy. He used to work at Tesla. After living in Austin Metro for the last 5 years, I can test the areas of the country is awesome. But anyway, Elon Musk plug in Austin. I'm not sure why I put it in there. But Andre Carpathy used to be one of the lead guys in testing when they started launching FSD like 10 years ago or something like that. And he's been kind of like negative, and he took out, I think, version 13, and he said it's absolutely amazing. So big deal for Carpathy. And then we also going to read some comments here, and this is a good one. Like the other days, we read the ones that are negative about us, and this one says, "Thanks you for a good show. You two guys are great, breath of fresh air." As one could say, also getting to frequent your other videos. So that's great. With love from Kamloops, so a little local stuff there, which is great. We appreciate that. We also will tell you when you hate us, so why not, right? Oh, like the CBC, we don't just need you to love us. You can do it. Our friend Lightning Bolt is what's his name? Lightning Rod, not here today. He usually kind of tries to keep us honest. We got a little clip here for you, though. I can't even remember what the clip is, but we'll play it anyway. It's got to be funny.
Hey guys, where the hell have you been? Playing reindeer games? Santa's pissed off. He was talking about replacing us with drones. And to keep this up, Jeff Bezos is taking over Christmas. We're about to get replaced by 2-day shipping.
There you go. I get a little bit of Christmas theme there.
Nose reindeer had a very shiny nose. And if you ever saw... Excuse me, that was a solo, not a duet. My bad. Dashing through the snow on a one-horse open sleigh. Merry Christmas, o'er the fields we go.
There you go. That's probably good. A little Christmas spirit for you there. And then sometimes people ask us why we do this. And it's a question that, like they say, like we're doing this. We do this because we care about Canada. And here's a little thing from Elon that put out there. And it was when Mr. Frodo asked Sam there, what was Sam's last name? Banksy or something like that? Sam?
What's that?
Sam.
Samwise Gamgee.
Samwise Gamgee, there you go. Why are we holding on to Sam? What are we holding on to, Sam? And he said, well, there is some good stuff left in the world worth fighting for. And that's what we're hanging on to, right? You got 2 little kids there. I got kids and grandchildren, so we're trying to do that. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make Canada a better place. Not giving up yet, right?
We're going to carry Frodo to Mount Doom, and he's going to toss the Ring of Power into the fire. That's what we're going to do.
When do we get there? Some other comments. These are good ones, actually. Really love the Really Big Show. Jim and Ian are not only entertaining, but also deliver a good point of view, and it's refreshing. Thanks. I just wanted them. There you go. So, thank you,
Good old
Shannon.
Jim and Lion should do this. This other one person says we should go on someone's show. Good old Jim and Lion.
Ask Pamela. She didn't spell your name right.
Nobody can. Frankly, I'm used to it. Maybe that's what I should do. I should have like a massive,
maybe
name tag.
You should do a little test and go into Starbucks and see who actually spells it right, and then just freak out at them. Just do a liberal freak out.
When I go to Starbucks, which isn't very often, I give my middle name. I don't even bother. It's not worth it.
What's your middle name? What's your middle name?
Alexander.
Hey,
Alexander. You can't get that wrong, can you? You can't get Alexander wrong.
You and I have the exact same middle name, and actually, the guy on the board there has the same name too.
Well, there you go.
The 3 of us have the same middle name. What's that? A trifecta?
Which board?
Nick's running the board today.
Oh right, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Nicky, yeah. Good old Nick.
There you go. 3 guys with the middle name Alexander. What are the chances?
Let's go and conquer the Persian Empire. I think that's what we should do.
Alexander the Great. Maybe we got to recruit some of those reindeer. But anyway, so to keep you up to date what's going on today, we'll give you that before we take off. Ian and I are going to play. Nick's going to the speech there for Pierre Poilievre. We're going to play that. We'll introduce it. We'll play it. We'll have some reaction to it after. And then I do have Dan Mazier in as well later today. And then I do also have Jeff Moyse in today as well. What time is Jeff Moyse in? Jeff Moyse is at 10:30. I got to go. All right. Cheers.
Cheerio.
Thanks for watching Now Media.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.